Well, folks, it's Remembrance Day. And I have to tell you, I don't think we're in any fit place to properly honor the fallen. Today we honor those who gave their tomorrows for our today. But is what we have today what they fought and died for? We must never forget why our men and women paid the ultimate sacrifice. It was to stop totalitarian regimes from ruling the world. The very totalitarians who influenced the 2019 federal elections in Canada by helping to fund several sitting LPC MPs currently holding office. Never forget, Trudeau is a Neo-Marxist. He knew about this since no later than last January and has done nothing to stop the creep of Marxism in the heart of his government. In my opinion, there can only be one reason for this. He knew all along, since he works hand in glove with the CCP. It was Global News that broke this article on November the 7th by Sam Cooper, and I provide the link. Canadian intelligence officials have warned Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that China has allegedly been targeting Canada with a vast campaign of foreign interference, which includes funding a clandestine network of at least 11 federal candidates running in the 2019 election, according to Global News sources. Delivered to the Prime Minister and several cabinet ministers in a series of briefings and memos first presented in January, the allegations included other detailed examples of Beijing's efforts to further its influence and in turn subvert Canada's democratic process, sources said. Based on recent information from the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, those efforts allegedly involve payments through the intermediaries to candidates affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party, placing agents into the offices of members of parliament in order to influence policy, seeking to co-opt and corrupt former Canadian officials to gain leverage in Ottawa, and mounting aggressive campaigns to punish Canadian politicians whom the People's Republic of China views as a threat to its interests. CSIS told Global News it could not answer some questions for this story, but the service confirmed it has identified the PRC's foreign interference in Canada, which can include covert funding to influence election outcomes. The Chinese Communist Party is using all elements of state power to carry out activities that are a direct threat to our national security and sovereignty, CSIS stated. That's the end of quote from that article. Next one from the Epoch Times, entitled, Canada Must Do More to Counter Chinese Election Influence, says Joly, written by Peter Wilson, published November the 9th, 2022. Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly says Canada must do more to prevent Chinese interference when asked by reporters what should be done about recent allegations that China meddled in the 2019 federal election. Yeah, that's like saying we investigated ourselves and found ourselves completely innocent of all blame. For the past two elections, we had a committee that was working on these very issues, and also we strengthened our processes. Yeah, that's why the CCP interfered in your government, Joly. But I think we need to do more. Yeah, take more money from the CCP? Is that what you mean by doing more? Joly said after making an announcement on Canada's upcoming new Indo-Pacific strategy at the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy in Toronto, Ontario on November the 9th. Joly also said the federal government won't let any foreign actor meddle in our democracy. Oh, but you have! We need to make sure that we tackle foreign interference at home, but I would also say particularly in the digital sphere. Joly's comments come amid a Global News report published this week alleging that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was briefed by intelligence officials in January, who said the Chinese Communist Party had funded 11 unnamed federal candidates in the 2019 election. State actors from around the world, whether it's China or others, are continuing to play aggressive games with our institutions, with our democracies. Trudeau told reporters in Laval, Quebec on November the 7th in response to the allegations. He added that the federal government has implemented significant measures to strengthen the integrity of our election process and our systems, and added that CISA will be receiving new tools to monitor election interference. He failed to protect our democracy, the article says. Joly also said on November 9th that the federal government will challenge China when we ought to, but cooperate with China when we must. In other words, when you're taking their money. Its sheer size and influence makes cooperation necessary to address the world's existential pressures. Yes, existential communist pressures by the woke elite in Canada, or upon the woke elite in Canada. Conservative MPs yesterday called upon the federal government to be more proactive in defending Canada's democracy against Chinese interference. It's long past time for the Trudeau government to come forward with a robust plan to counter Beijing's foreign interference operations here on Canadian soil, wrote Conservative MPs Michael Chong and Pierre-Paul Housse in a statement on November the 8th. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said in a press conference today that Trudeau has failed to protect our democracy. I think it's very troubling that the Prime Minister has known about allegations of foreign interference in Canadian elections since last January, and he hasn't taken any action, Poilievre told reporters in Vancouver on November the 9th. These two articles are merely 2 out of, that's the end of that quote. These articles are merely 2 out of 10 that I personally posted to my profile. Here I will speak off the cuff, and for you to hear it, it won't be written in my blog. You're going to have to listen to my horrific diatribe, okay? First of all, do you think China's woke? I've been there. I've traveled all over China, arriving in Shanghai, flying out to Chengdu, which is west, going up north to Diang, then where we met and in a televised interview with the vice mayor of Diang. Our mayor of St. Catharines spoke in this televised interview about business cooperation with China. Then the mayor and I and the rest of our party flew east again to Hefei, where we visited the Chinese Communist Party's economic development headquarters, and then took a high-speed train from Hefei to Wuxi on the northeast coast, or on the central east coast of China, and then drove back to Shanghai to fly out again. Believe me, if you make the mistake of telling them that you think a girl is attractive, or you imply that she's a nice person, they're immediately offering her as a sacrifice to gain your business. There is nothing woke about China. If you were asked a Chinese Communist Party official if they could identify the difference between a woman and a trans testicle, they would burst out laughing. Why? Because woke ideology, postmodern ideology, was planted by the communists in our universities to weaken us to the point where we can no longer defend our democracy and therefore become prey to full-blown communist takeover. So let's look how that will happen, because right now I'm assuming it's going to happen given these articles proving that the CCP is deep within my federal government. Factor 1, factories win wars. Since the countries that can produce the most advanced military technology and equipment fastest without interruptions and our supply chain histories are historically the winners of war. Factor 2, Communist China manufactures an undue proportion of the goods we require. Factor 3, CSIS warned the Canadian government that the CCP interfered in the 2019 elections and controls several Canadian politicians and bureaucrats last January. Noted historian and academic Dr. John Robson just wrote an article stating that this is common knowledge and yet we do nothing about it. That article you can find also in the Epoch Times. Factor 4, we lack the moral resolve and industrial might to defend ourselves against communist incursions. And factor 5, this must be the official state policy of the Liberal Party of Canada since they were warned by CSIS and did nothing. Let that sink in on this Remembrance Day. What are we remembering? Why did we send those boys to die? Why did our women die also in the field? Why? So we can live in this totalitarian hell? Boy, I don't think so. You know, I got so upset this morning at the breakfast table, I had to get up and shit myself. I had rabid diarrhea all day long thinking about how utterly corrupt and wicked the Canadian government has become. And all because there are a whole pack of people out there who lack the common sense not to know the difference between a trans testicle and a hermaphrodite and a woman that can bear children. I've had enough. I said it yesterday. I maintain social media profiles for 2 reasons. So I can see what my friends are up to and enjoy their family photos and vacation pictures, and also to warn people about the impending, looming, immediate danger of radical totalitarian ideology influencing politics here in Canada, and indeed all throughout the Western world. So let's have a moment of silence at 11 o'clock and think about these things and pray for a brighter and better future. Justin Trudeau, you are a Quisling, and you are deserving of the fate that Quisling met on one dark, chilly October morning in 1945 at Akershus Festning. God wake you up